Investigator Scott Taylor is live tonight with what he's uncovered in his investigation.
My sources close to the investigation tell me inside the house it was brutal. If you acted out or you tried to escape, you didn't eat.
Inside this house of horrors, my sources tell me Amanda, Gina, and Michelle were chained up for several years by the neck and waist in different rooms. Michelle chained to a wall like some sort of trophy. All the women were finally unchained after Amanda Berry had her baby, who's now 6 years old. Michelle, not so lucky. Sources tell me she was pregnant at least once and lost her baby due to beatings and starvation, getting punched in the stomach over and over again. Could that be what investigators think might be buried in the backyard of Castro's home? Castro used to trick the girls that he was leaving the house. When they tried to grab a door and escape, he would beat them. The story's so horrendous, some of the investigators in the room had to leave when the girls were being interviewed. So how did everyone get out of the house and away from Ariel Castro? Amanda's little girl told them, "Daddy is leaving to go see Grandma." They didn't believe her until Amanda took a chance and peeked out. It appears Amanda's little girl helped save them all.
I'm being told the girls really stuck together in the house when one was punished and wasn't able to get any food. The other two would sneak her food to help keep that girl alive. Scott Taylor, 19 Action News.
Well, several sources now confirming that Ariel Castro wrote a letter in 2004, and investigators found it this week inside his home. Our Scott Taylor is here with more from this chilling note.
Ramona, it appears this guy would use up one of his victims and then find another and write about it.
My sources say investigators believe Ariel Castro wrote this so-called suicide note back in 2004, right after he had all three girls gagged and chained up inside the basement of his home. If Castro is guilty of abusing these women for 10 long years, did he play favorites with his victims? It appears he did, but he also wrote, "I treat them well and fed them well." That's simply not true. At least two of the women malnourished when rescued on Monday. Michelle Knight, the first person captured by Castro in 2002, suffered the most visible physical abuse. I'm being told Amanda Berry is pale and very thin. Was Gina DeJesus, who was only 14 when she was abducted in 2004, treated differently? Castro writes he had no idea she was so young. Castro thinks Gina is a lot older. Her mom, Nancy Ruiz, told me in 2011 Gina did not look 14.
She didn't look like a 14-year-old. She was a beautiful girl.
So
and not just because
somebody targeted her and took her away.
Yes.
Castro writes, "I had no idea she was a daughter of Felix, a school classmate of mine." Felix DeJesus, the father of Gina, has confirmed with 19 Action News that he and Castro were briefly classmates at Lincoln West High School in Cleveland. They were not best buds. In the letter, Castro writes, "I feel closeness to Gina and her parents."
Right now, Castro is alone in a county jail cell. His emotional state, I'm told today, is subdued. Scott Taylor, 19 Action News.
Our third story out front, shocking new video from Ariel Castro's home. Barbed wire on the garage windows. We're getting a new look at the house where Castro was accused of holding three women hostage and sexually assaulting them for a decade. Scott Taylor is an investigative reporter for Cleveland's WOIO, the station that originally acquired this video. Tonight, he comes out front. Scott, thanks for joining us. What's the most shocking part of this video?
Well, I think it's when you get into the garage. You mentioned that barbed wire along the windows of the garage. You look inside, there's several children's bicycles in there, and we know that Amanda's daughter was in that house when Amanda and Gina and Michelle escaped. Ariel Castro's daughter we now know through DNA. But in that garage, there's a little American flag, one of those little ones, Jake, that most kids would wave on a Memorial Day parade or a 4th of July parade. So that's really, really disturbing.
One of your sources got a look inside the house. What did that person tell you?
Well, on the first floor, you open the door, it looks really normal, Jake. You've got a couch, a recliner, a love seat, more kids' toys. You also, though, have plexiglass, kind of a thick plexiglass in all the windows. Then you go down in the basement, and that's when things get really, really creepy. All the windows are blacked out. There's barbed wire nailed all over the windows. Then you head upstairs, and it gets even more disturbing. All the windows have chicken wire, which you'd find in a chicken coop, chicken wire on the windows, then more plexiglass, and then on top of that, the barbed wire. But then in one bedroom, there's a metal stake that is stuck, screwed down into the floorboard, into the floor, and attached to that is a dog chain. The dog chain only reaches to a bed, not the door, and nothing else. And we know that Amanda, Gina, and Michelle, at times, were chained up in that house.
Horrifying details. Thank you, Scott Taylor, from our affiliate WOIO.
Investigator Scott Taylor has uncovered a new police report containing details from the officers the girls ran to after the rescue. He's live at 10 with more.
I broke the story on Twitter around 6:30. If you follow me, you saw it all on my timeline. Now, for the first time, hear from the officer and how his partner and himself went into this house and rescued everybody. Officer Anthony Espada and his partner Michael Tracy first came face to face with Amanda Berry. She wanted them to go into Ariel Castros' home. The two officers didn't hesitate and ran to the door. They crawled through a hole that neighbors had burst open, and Officer Espada headed upstairs and met Michelle Knight. He says she jumped onto me. She's like, "You saved us, you saved us." And I'm holding onto her so tight. Within seconds, another woman walked in the hallway. He says, "I asked, what's your name?" She said, "My name is Gina DeJesus." Very overwhelming. It took everything to hold myself together. Espada and Tracy take the two women outside to meet a community that can't believe they're alive. He goes on to say, "I don't feel like a hero. I'm just glad I was there. You know, just making sure they were safe."
Adam 23 radio. We found them. We found them.
Espada says on my Twitter timeline that he doesn't feel like a hero, but I gotta say, I think he is. You can take a look at the entire conversation on my timeline or on the 19 Action News Facebook page. We've posted it up for you to comment. Scott Taylor, 19 Action News.
Amazing. Joining me now is Scott Taylor, the investigative reporter for CNN affiliate WOIO. Scott, you're finding out some new information about the days surrounding when Ariel Castro allegedly kidnapped Gina DeJesus. What have you learned?
We started taking a look, Anderson, at his attendance records at the school. I just got a hold of 2004 when Gina disappeared just earlier today. And on April 2nd, you know, everybody knows now across the world that she disappeared on a Friday, walking home from school. And I found out that Ariel Castro didn't show up for work that day. He also, Anderson, didn't show up for work the day before. Then the weekend passed, and police believe Gina was in that basement, chained and gagged. And then he didn't show up for work the following Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And the district has told me, Scott, that he didn't call in a timely fashion, so I think that they had no idea where he was, and he's going to really have to explain that to the police.
I am fully aware and I do consent to it.
Well, just a day after Ariel Castro cut a deal to spend the rest of his life behind bars, his victims continue healing, ready to live their lives again. Amanda Berry captured national headlines with a surprise public appearance.
She joined rapper Nelly on stage at Roverfest downtown. Scott Taylor is here with what led to her getting up on stage.
I want to make it really clear, Rover didn't go chasing after Amanda Berry like other media, didn't bang on her door. All he said a couple of weeks ago on his radio show was, "Hey, Amanda, if you'd like to come to Roverfest, I've got a couple of free tickets for you." He didn't think she would actually show up.
Give it up for Amanda Berry!
Wow, Amanda Berry, held captive for 10 years, makes her first public appearance at Roverfest after Rover offered her free tickets on the air weeks ago.
I was as surprised as anyone else when she showed up at Rover Fest.
Our camera's the only ones rolling as Rover's legions of fans start to react.
What you guys did with Amanda Berry, man, that's Cleveland strong. That's awesome what you guys did for the community.
Rover didn't hound Amanda Berry to show up, and for a brief moment backstage, they connected.
She was very nice. She was very polite, very soft-spoken.
Amanda came on her own with family and friends.
She said, well, if I go out there, will you come with me?
Aw, I didn't know that.
I said, of course.
Recording superstar Nelly also invited Amanda Berry up on stage, so Cleveland got an encore of Amanda Berry.
I want to make sure we get a chance to thank you, because I know it's a long time and I can't even imagine the type of strength and the type of courage that it took to really, you know, to keep it going. So for that, again, I commend you and I say thank you.
She's having a good time for the first time in her life, and it was really moving. I had chills when I brought her out there on stage.
Wow, just terrific. You know, Rover told me that after Amanda and her sister and her friends and family got off stage, the tears started to flow because just that overwhelming support from everybody who was there, and also the city of Cleveland.
Right,
Scott
Paul,
Taylor, 19
thank
Action
you.
News.
You just saw a little bit of what Michelle Knight had to say. She showed incredible courage, speaking out to the man who stole 11 years of her life. Scott Taylor continues our team coverage with that part of the story.
We all saw Michelle Knight inside the courtroom. She comes in a very tiny package but has a huge heart, and her impact statement, it was tough but inspirational.
Ariel Castro's very first victim, Michelle Knight, taken at age 20 back in 2002, maybe the most physically punished by this monster, and who is now standing up in court and facing this guy just a few feet away.
You took 11 years of my life away, and I have got it back. I spent 11 years in hell. Now your hell is just beginning.
Castro said in court the day he kidnapped Michelle, he wasn't looking for a victim. He looked right at her during his statement and said it was a happy household.
We had a lot of harmony going on in that home.
For Michelle, it was a house of horrors.
I can forgive you, but I'll never forget.
We know Castro punched, kicked, jumped on her stomach, and tossed her down the stairs in order to terminate multiple births. In court, he also tried to dominate everyone again.
I am not a violent predator.
For Michelle, this was part of the healing process. She faced her monster, and he's now dead to her forever.
I'm finally being heard, and it's liberating.
When Michelle Knight started talking in court, making that initial impact statement, my Twitter account started blowing up. And one thing kept popping up on the screen. Amazing. Live in downtown Cleveland, Scott Taylor, 19 Action News.
Scott Taylor, an investigative reporter with Cleveland's WOIO, is out front. Hi, Scott. What is the latest? Tell us.
Hey, Jessica.
Hi, with Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina DeJesus.
Well, let's start with Amanda Berry first. You know, she's 27 years old, a single mom, very protective of her 6-year-old daughter, though she has come out publicly. She was at a large outdoor concert. A lot of people saw that. Rover Fest, got up on stage, and Nelly actually sang her a song, but still being very protective of what she says. She doesn't want to discuss anything that went on in that house in order to make sure that her 6-year-old just doesn't hear anything at all about it. And then there's Michelle Knight. Michelle Knight made that passionate impact statement in front of Ariel Castro. She's really become the face of the entire story right now when she did make that statement at his sentencing. She also made sure that she was in front of his house moments before it was destroyed. She read one of her most favorite poems, and she also has had a little fun. She actually talked to Andrew Zimmer, the host of Bizarre Foods. He was here about 2 weeks ago at the West Side Market, which is a big open-air market. All the farmers come here and trade their vegetables and so forth. And Michelle, you might not know, Jessica, loves food, loves to cook, and so they traded some ideas. And then there's Gina. Gina, who I've come pretty close to with her family, only 23 years old. She is very shy, probably the most shy out of all of them, doesn't say a whole lot, but she did get in a car and actually participate in a parade with her family and friends, drove through the city and waved at everybody. She was also just spotted, Jessica, at a roller rink, believe it or not, roller skating with family and friends, something that, you know, she hasn't been able to do for the last 10 years.
It's so nice to hear about them emerging. I'm wondering if any of them has returned to the neighborhood where they were held captive, and if they've gone, why did they go back?
Well, they all three have gone back before Ariel Castro's house was destroyed about 3 weeks ago. They demolished it. Michelle has been there twice, once before it was demolished, then moments before. Gina, I believe, stopped by as well, and Amanda, too. And I think it's just one of the process of their healing and also making sure that their lives continue. Michelle made it very clear in that victim's impact statement in front of Ariel Castro that her life is going to continue.
Scott, really touching reporting and so sensitive to what they're going through. Thanks so much for your updates. Scott Taylor reporting for us. And still to come, new developments in the NSA leaker investigation, warning signs in 1983 that were ignored. Plus, Switzerland's controversial plan to combat prostitution, why the Swiss government thinks sex boxes are a good idea. And the latest from the massive wildfire out west. San Francisco's water and power supply in danger.